see. Let's get some reference set up here. And get my usual things up. Let's make sure we're on. Yay, now let's see if I can pop this chat out. Chat options, times, hide chat. Hey, Mordecai, thanks for showing up. Is this a new thing where I can't pop the chat out of the Explorer or the internet window? You know, I wonder if I could set it up through Restream. That's a little better. Hide chat, show chat, chat room, clear chat, slow mode, timestamp, edit appearance. Oh my god. Okay, well, let me just drag this over here then. That'll be my chat area. Okay, going through the streaming topics, I figured I'd start with Yoshi Nintendo Switch game. I was looking at the Yoshi Nintendo Switch game, and there didn't seem to be anything different or strange about the 3D modeling of it, of the pieces themselves. It looked more like the materials is what was doing something interesting on there. It kind of reminded me of, there's a Sony PlayStation game a while ago. It was like this little beanbag guy that would run around with little buttons for eyes. That's what it kind of reminded me of. So, I don't know. I figured we could do a little bit of Mario modeling today. So let me see, make sure everything's up and running and captured. Yep, okay. And of course, I have my streaming links. There we go. I also need to leave a little bit early today. So here we go. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is hit the comma key to get rid of that light box thing there. Hey, Knight of Spades, thanks for showing up. We're going to do some quick warm-up modeling, and I'm just going to pick something real simple to start off with. Let me zoom in on here because there's some really cool stuff we can do. Okay, so first let's start off with something simple like maybe this. So what we're going to do is you guys can guess what this is going to be. So I'm going to go grab a polymesh sphere 3D. And why I start with a polymesh sphere is because I don't have to go over here, make a primitive, and then initialize it or make polymesh 3D up there. If I start with this polymesh 3D object, I can just go straight down here to initialize, hit Q cube, and then deformations unify. Go into polyframe here, hit X to go across X symmetry, go to the floor, make sure I'm Z forward here. So this is the front of my object, and now I can get started. So I'm almost done modeling this thing, but what we need to do is, let me zoom in on this real quick. So I have Quadro, Quadro. I can link you guys to that. It's a reference viewer. And one of the reasons it's handy, and it's free. One of the reasons it's handy is you can set it up all on your screen. You can save these, what are they called? Presets. So you can set up all this reference on your screen and save it as a preset. So every time you start up, you can go to your reference file and it'll load up your reference preset. So what I can do is I can just load this thing up here, and instead of taking this into Spotlight, I can just use Quadro. I can right click this and say always on top, and then I can hit the T key, hold down the T key, and then drag, and that'll bring in opacity here. So I can just use this, and I don't have to drag that into Photoshop, or drag that into ZBrush. So now I can just kind of get started. If I want to, let's go ahead and do a geometry. There's a couple different ways we could do this one, but let's go ahead and try ZModeler first. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this off, and I'm going to go out of X symmetry to make this model here, and I'm also going to go into solo mode here. So now if I hit the X key, let me see, solo. Oh, I need to do always on top, and then I need to do lock. I'm going to go over here and say lock images. There we go. Much better. So I've got this thing here, and I'm going to get this one. I got solo mode. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and scale this one down and scale it down like this. Actually, I suppose we can just start here. So I'm going to drag all the way down, turn on my polyframe, and for this one, I'm just going to hit Q mesh of poly. We're going to do a single poly, hold down Alt, and then just pull through like so. And then let's also scale this back in. So now we've got the dot here. I'm going to hold down Control and drag up. That's going to give us a copy of this. And I'm going to hold down Alt and move this down. And I'm going to scale this down here. And now what I can do is I can hold down Alt, and then I can pull this up. And that'll go ahead and give me my basic shape here. I'm out of perspective mode because I'm doing hard surface modeling, so I want to make sure everything goes on there straight. Another thing I can do is I can go ahead and split this off. I'm going to hold down Control Shift, go into Select Rect, grab those pieces, and then I'm going to do a split hidden. And another thing I can do is go over here to my document window, and we can go down here to ZapLink properties. I'm going to say save this as my front. So now I can go hold down Control Alt, hit W, move this up, and now I can scoot these lines around by going into my ZModeler brush here. Okay, what'd you just do? So for some reason, when I hit front, it goes up now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it back down. I'm going to do clear all, and I'm just going to hit custom one. There we go. Now if I want to slide, oh, that's what it's doing. Okay, so you know when you hit, okay, so something I didn't think about. So when Spotlight comes in, it'll compensate for this thing popping down from the side. Quadro doesn't, so what I got to do is I'm going to go into Preferences, and we talked about this last time, I think, where we're going to go into Interface, Palettes, no, that's not it, is it? Auto Collapse, no. ZModeler, selection distance, no. Oh crap, where was it? Import, export, tablet, performance, draw, lightbox. IMM viewer, auto show, auto hide. I'm going to turn that off. There we go. All right, sorry about that. So now I'm going to do is I'm going to go to slide, edge loop complete. I'm just going to slide this down. And now I know these ones over here I can just pull out to the side. I'm going to hold down Control and then Alt and then hit W and hold down Control and just pull out this way. And I'm going to do the exact same thing here. Control Alt and then hold down Control and move this up. Oops. There we go. Wait a minute. And that way I don't have to hop out of this view in order to go ahead and make these basic shapes. Now I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go to Insert, Single Edge Loop here, and then hold down Control Alt, W, Control all the way over here. And you know what, I can just go out, let's say we want to go out this far, and then hold down Control again, and then I go out this far, and then again Control Alt, oops, and then hold down Control. That way I've got these. Now I can do, now this one, if I go into my ZModeler brush here, I can hover over a point and I can do move infinite depth, and then I can just move all of these points like so. Let's go ahead and move this down. Although if I want to keep these things straight, you can just do Control Alt. And just move these things around. Close enough. And looks like we need another little divot in here. So insert single edge loop. If I want to put this right in the middle, I can do insert multiple edge loops and just pop it right in the middle, and then go ahead and push this down. Or at this point, what I can do is go down here. We can do collapse edge, and we can just collapse that edge down. Of course, we're going to need to collapse these all the way back. There we go. So we've got this shape, and we've got this shape, and we've got our box shape here. Now in order for these boxes to have these little holes in it, we could do that with booleans. Let's Let's see how this will work. So I've got X turned on. I'm going to go to Insert, Single Edge Loop, and we're going to insert an edge loop right here. And I'm also going to do, you know what we could do? Let's do Transform. Activate symmetry in the X and Y direction. So when we insert these, it'll go on the top and the bottom. And now I can just go over here and let's do a split point. Like so. And now I can go in here and just do a Q mesh polygroup all and just pull these back. And then I'll do a crease polygroup, crease tolerance, hit dynamic, crease level of say 4, smooth subdivision of say 5. Oops, let's see, uncrease all. There we go. So that'll be my little cube here. And then we've got this and this. And let's go ahead and I'm going to unlock my images here. And say not always on top. And I can also get rid of this transparency here. Now, I've got these two subtools inside of this box. If I want to move multiple subtools, what I can do is I can hit W, go into this multi-select mode here, hold down Control-Shift, and get rid of that one. And now I can move these subtools around, maybe. Let's see. Oh, wait. So unmask, unmark those. Mark this one as not movable. Move these ones out. Maybe. Let's see. Let me turn that off. So everything is unmarked. If I Control-Shift mark this one, everything else should be unmarked. I wonder if it's contained within the bounding box of that one. I can't. Unmarked. That's really weird. Take this one back. Okay, now this one is more, okay. I don't know what that was, but you can move multiple subtools around. And we're going to go ahead and hold down Alt and push these back, and then I can go ahead and shrink these back. Looks like it's pretty thin here. So that will go ahead and we'll hold the W, hold down, get rid of that. And then I'm going to go back to this box here. So this, when we had dynamic on, if I go over here and change that, increase all and then crease. Let's change our crease level down to 3. Yeah, it's not doing what I want. Let's go into our dynamic subdivisions here, and instead of smooth, let's try Q grid. But Q grid is going to have a weird effect on here. So what we're going to do is we're going to knock down these corners here. Then we're going to do Shift D, and I'm going to get rid of these front planes here. And if we go into geometry, edge loop, we can do delete loops. Looks like it's not going to do it. That's okay. We're going to insert single edge loop, hold down Alt, and we'll get rid of these. Now I can just do a simple bridge edges. And now what I can do is, let's go over here to our dynamic. And we got our Q grid turned on. We got our coverage turned on. So we're going to go ahead and just put a nice bevel in along here. Let's do a quick mirror and weld. And we're going to do a chamfer or bevel. I guess we can just do a bevel. There we go. And then let's go to grab a cylinder 12, and we can just put in So this is going to be the Boolean method. And for these Booleans, I'm going to go ahead and do a split mask points, which is going to be in your subtool split menu. And that's going to put it down below, so I can have a start group for this question mark here. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and just merge this whole question mark down, because we're going to have the same settings on that. And then for this one, we'll have a new start group. And then for this one, it'll be subtractive. And for these, I'm going to go ahead and do our crease. And we're going to turn off Q grid, and we're just going to do smooth subdiv of maybe 4, crease level of 3. And in order to see what we're doing, we're going to turn on live Boolean here, and we're going to push these back, and that'll be where those go. And now I can just kind of position these wherever they need to go. And then for this one, let's go ahead and do Q grid for this one as well. So if we turn on dynamic, Q grid, smooth subdiv of 1 maybe, coverage. All right, I think that'll work. So if we want to make this a whole union mesh with everything, so we're going to have one subtool, 2 subtools, and this subtool be cut in. We could put a small bevel on the outside of this one. So if we go into polyframe mode here, you're going to see what we need to do is go into solo mode. Well, we can just go in here. We can go to ZModeler brush, insert single edge loop here, and then here. And then I'm going to go to polygroup, polyloop. And then we can go to QMesh, polygroup all, hold down shift. And as we scale that up, we're going to be building in a slight bevel. Let's go ahead and do a crease. Let's go into solo mode here. Oh, and also let's slide this out so we get a little bit more of a bevel. So we're going to go to slide, edge loop complete. We're going to slide this out. And now we can do crease, edge loop complete here, here. So that's a shape we're going to get. And now when we push this in, you're going to see it's going to start beveling out at the edges here. Just a little bit more of a finished look. Okay. Okay, we got this chat. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. We're just doing a little bit of warm-up modeling here. Cutting the top part of the ZBrush interface. Yeah, I should be at least cutting off the file. Yeah, let's see, live Boolean. Let me see if I can drop this down a little bit. Actually, you know what? Oh, I can't move this while it's recording. Let me go here. There we go. Sorry about that. There's a file menu up there. Cool. Oh, I did. So the cool thing about this one is, since it's just dynamic, good call, I can go ahead and fix that inner corner. Good eyes. So what I'm going to do is, it looks like this thing just goes across, so I'm going to go into, so I hit Shift D, and now we can just collapse these things back. If I don't need this inside edge here, I can go to Insert, Poly Loop, Single Poly, no. Edge, how about the edge? Insert, single edge, pull down Alt, and we can get rid of those ones, and this one here. And if we want to, we can hit collapse. So we're going to collapse this edge towards here and towards here. Okay, that should be right. That looks right. Looks like it doesn't go in that far. So what we can do is hold down Control Alt, and then we can scoot this over, and then we can scoot this up. Now let's see if QGrid's going to play nice. Doesn't look like it is. Let's see, uncrease all. So in order to fix that, we might have to collapse this all the way over. So let's go to collapse edge, collapse edge. All right, so now when we hit D, there we go, much better. So probably the same thing. That one seems to be doing fine. So this one we just needed to collapse those edges in. There we go, so Shift D, D, And now we've got this thing here. Let's go ahead and just keep doing some modeling. We can do some rendering later here. And I'm also going to squash the bottom of this. I'm going to hold down Control Alt. I'm going to hold down Alt and click that little center thing. And now we can kind of squish this down a little bit. Cool. All right. And this one. And this is just a preview render. So if I get rid of the preview render, you're going to see those little tabs kind of come out here. If I want to do the exact same thing on the other side, what I can do, I'll just do this really quick. If we go to Boolean, turn on dynamic subdiz because we're using dynamic subdiz on these models. We're going to hit make Boolean mesh. And now we've got our U-mesh here. And now that I've got these, I can go ahead and merge these together. And now I can just do a quick mirror and weld across the X and Z here. Oh, not the X, just the Z. And that'll go ahead and just mirror it on the other side. Oh, of course, we don't want this to be mirrored on the other side. So what we can do is we can grab these meshes here, do Control-Shift-A, go ahead and split those, and now we can just do a deformations mirror across the X-axis here. So now, on both sides, we have this, and then we can go ahead and merge this down. So that's one way to go ahead and just get the same symbol on both sides. It'd be a lot easier if it was mirrored, a mirrorable object. Well, if I did mirror and weld across the X, you'll see that's what it looked like if we did mirror and weld across the X. So it gives me kind of a cool shape. But anyway, we'll go ahead and save this one. There we go. Cool. Hey, thanks everybody for showing up here. So we'll go ahead and turn off live Boolean render here, and let's pick something else that's nice and easy. Okay, this will be a fun one, I think. So, okay, let's try a little different approach, a little different attack here. So we're going to go into our plane 3D here, go into edit mode, and turn on polyframe. And we've got a plane here, so I'm going to hit make polymesh 3D, and I'm going to subdivide this up. Just hit Control D a couple times, and that's just going down here to geometry and subdividing. And now what we want to do is we'll hit, I guess we don't need to go across X symmetry, but I like having things right in the middle. So I'm going to turn on X symmetry here, hold down Control. We have mask pin selected. Let's change that to mask rectangle. Oh, you know what? Let's hit BT to go into brush transpose smart. And I'm going to turn off the gizmo. And now with transpose smart selected, I'm going to grab a star alpha. So now with this one, if I hold down Control and drag out, I can now lift this, use the space bar to lift this up and continue to drag out and rotate around. So it's great for like really accurate placement of where these things should be. So I use transpose smart mask. It's really good. You could also just use mask pin with an alpha, and you can just drag it out over here. And if you hold, see, you can't hold down shift, so you're gonna have to kind of eyeball it. Now, what you can do is go, let's try this. Let's do a couple different options. Well, we can always just change this. So you can go mask pin or you can go mask rectangle. If you want to have this as a rectangle stroke, you can say drag rect, and then you can say, or maybe no, you need to do a rectangle, square, and center, and then a brush alpha. So now when you drag this out, it'll go right down the middle, and then you can use your space bar to move this thing around. That's kind of cool. So either way is fine. Now that we have that, let's go ahead, and I think that'll work. So just hit Control W, and that'll go ahead and give us our little star shape here. So now if I isolate this, we can go ahead and do delete hidden. Oh, we got to do delete lower on our geometry. Now we can do delete hidden. And now let's see if we can do a deformations polish by features open circle. I'm just going to kind of polish those outer edges here. And let's go ahead and ZBrush this. So I'm going to go to my ZBrush options. We'll do a half polygon count. We don't need to do keep groups or anything. Adaptive size, I'll crank down to like 20-ish. That's not going to work, is it? Let's see. Let's keep this up at 50. Really doesn't want to work on this object here. Let's try polish by features again, ZBrush. There we go. Okay, so we'll just keep hitting half until we get a nice simplified mesh. I think that'll work. So now we need to make this look like it's inflated. There's a couple different ways to do that. Actually, let's back that off a little bit. I want a little bit more geometry in here because we're going to be pulling this out. Let's try a couple different options here. Let's try QMesh, polygroup all, and we'll pull this out. And let's just try even so I can do an inflate. So you can go into deformations, inflate here, and that's going to kind of give you kind of an inflated mesh here. But also let's try Matchmaker. So what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and unify this here, deformation, unify. It's going to give it that perfect primitive shape here. So now if I go into append and I just grab a sphere 3D and we move that sphere 3D back, let's go ahead and put our gizmo back on. Select the sphere and move it back behind the star and then scale it up. We can use this sphere to dictate how curvy our star is. So if we grab this polymesh sphere, let's go ahead and hit Control D a couple times. And now we've got this. Let's go into BMM, that's our matchmaker brush, and we'll just pull. And it's a little bit intense here. Oh, let's turn off X. There we go. So we'll just do 1. And now to kind of match that curvature, if it's too curvy, just go into your sphere, scale it up. And now we can just do matchmaker again. We can also use a bend deformer, which might be kind of nice. So that's one way. We could do matchmaker here, but that gives us one side. We'd have to duplicate this back over, bridge it, and I don't know how well that would work. So anyway, we can also do this here. Let's try QMesh, polygroup all. We'll go ahead and give this some thickness. And you know what? Let's also just do a quick mirror and weld across the X and Z. And now when we're manipulating this, we can hit X, and then we can go to transform, turn on X and Z. So now we're going both sides. Now if we wanted to, we could also just make a really big brush here and just kind of pull that out and kind of get a fat star going. And you can also just use your inflate brush. If you go in here and just start, inflating this side both out. And now if you hit D, you'll see that's the kind of look we're getting, so you can actually be in dynamic mode while you're inflating the star. It's another option. Well, let's see if the bend deformer will work for this. So I'm going to hit X to go out of X symmetry. We're going to hit W. And we're going to go into our gizmo here, and let's try bend arc. So now I might have to mask one side, because yeah, if I do this one, let's see. Oops. Let's go ahead and turn this back to mask pen here. So if we mask this back, let's hit X to go out of X symmetry here. So we're going to mask this back part here. So now we can bend this back, but now it's going to get conflicted by the other side. So let's invert that. We'll move this way back here. So we had already inflated that out. There we go. Let's say mirror and weld in the X and Z. Move this back here. And we're just going to mirror and weld this anyways. We can probably just leave that open. So you know what? Change my mind. Let's go ahead and hold down Control Shift Alt. Let's go ahead and delete all that back stuff. So now we can just do a bend arc. Let's go ahead and center our pivot here. And we'll go back into bend arc. And now we can just use bend arc to pull this back. And we can also do this bend arc. This one. That's going to go out to the side. It's really kind of hard to see though. We can always get rid of this later. So we can do QMesh, polygroup all. We're going to pull these back here. Now when we pull this in, I'm going to have to go down here to display properties flip. Way down here at the bottom. And now we can see if we can kind of pull this thing back. There you go, both sides. So, a bunch of different ways to skin this cat. Trying to think of my favorite way. I think what I like probably the most is if I go in here to mirror and weld across the X. Let's go ahead and delete that here. And now I can just do a mirror and weld across the X and Z. Center this one. Let's go ahead and make it a little bit fatter here. And then I can just use, like we were talking about before, just the inflate. Let's go to preferences, edit, turn off align cursor to surface. And then we'll hit D. Let's go through here. And also we should probably do inflate too. Turn on the X symmetry. And you know what, let's do X and Z if it's not already on. Yeah, it's on. So now we can just inflate this thing up, and we'll hit D for our dynamic subdivision here. And we'll go ahead and inflate this up just a bit. And now if I hold down Shift, we can smooth out these corners a little bit. And also, you know what, let's add some subdivisions here. So instead of doing, if I do Shift D, you're going to see we're getting the actual geometry here. So now if I do Control D, that's going to give us a real subdivision here. And I can do Delete Lower, you can see that. In fact, if you turn off Polyframe and turn it back on again, you'll see the Polyframe is updated to the Sub D2. So you can use that trick as well. Or you can use the trick where you go to subdivision level 1, and then as you add subdivision levels, it'll just smooth the subdivide, but you still see your lowest cage. So either way, depending on the geometry that you want to see. And now we can just keep hitting Control D. And now that I have actual subdivisions here, let's go ahead and make sure dynamic is off. And now we can just do inflate. So you can use Z modeler, you can use matchmaker, you can use just sculpting inflate tools. And once it gets to a certain point, if you want to rearrange this geometry, if we do delete lower, let's go ahead and just do a quick Z remesher. I don't need to keep these groups on the side anymore, so we're just going to Z remesh half, adapt the size down to 0. And we have X turned on, so it'll be symmetrical across the X axis. And we can just keep hitting that, and that'll give us new geo here. So as we subdivide again, we can go ahead and smooth these out. Now this is two different smoothing algorithms. I hold down smooth and hold down shift. See how it starts pinching in towards those, this little crease right here. If you hold down shift and let go of, hold down shift, start smoothing and let go of shift, it'll smooth, it'll just kind of disperse, or it'll average the vertices across the surface. So you can use that to your advantage as well. Something like that maybe. And if you want to fatten this guy up, you can just use your scale, or keep inflating him, or you could just do an overall deformation inflate like we talked about at the very beginning. You can just do an inflate like this. Let's see if balloon inflate does anything different. Deformation, inflate balloon. It's a little bit different. Oh, something like that. And you can also use move AcU if you want to pull these things out to points a little bit more. And then you can also use pinch, your pinch brush. Go ahead and pinch these points down here. Something like that. Yeah, and I have a hotkey assigned to this live boolean. It's Alt-R. So for instance, if you just have a couple subtools in here, and in fact we have our sphere here, so we can move the sphere to the top, and then we can make this subtractive. So we can go into Alt-R, and we push this thing back. Oops, grab the star here, and keep that on. Now you can see this live boolean out from the, and you can hold down Control, and oh, this has actual subdivision level, so we got to delete lower, and now you can hold down Control, and we can move copies of this thing around. And really what we're doing, if I turn off Alt-R, you're going to see that. And alternatively, you can keep Alt-R on and just hit Polyframe, and that'll show you the object you're working on. But we don't really need the sphere, so we go ahead and delete that. Now there's one more thing we need to add to the star. So let's go into, I'm trying to think what this shape this is. It kind of looks like, do I have one of those? Yeah, I've got a ring. So let's do this. Let's go BI brush insert primitives here. They have a capsule. Let's try that. And now we can just scale these things in. Now you're going to see when I start scaling these things in, it's going to go to the middle, it's going to go to the outside. So let's turn on LSim, and that'll scale them just locally along their axis. We can just push this in. And if you want to, oh, I have X and Z turned on. Let's do this. So before I insert this, let's turn off transform, X and Z. We'll just do X symmetry here. And I can drag this out, and now let's go ahead and just do a split mask points here. So now, if we go into turn off live Boolean here, because these are both subtractive, we don't need that. We can move this back, and like I said before, we've got LSIM turned on, so now we can scale on the local axis here. We can move these things in. If we want to match these up, we could use Spotlight, but I think we can just eyeball it. Yeah, about here. And we'll go skinnier. And if we want to match this, let's go ahead and hold down Alt, go to Unmatch Mesh Center, and for this one we'll do Bend Arc, and we'll just pull this back a little bit, but we are going to need a little bit more divisions in here. So let's go into Insert, Multiple Edge Loops, and let's turn off, let's make it same polygroup. So as we grab this out, we don't get the clown look, and we'll hit Control W to make that all one polygroup. And now we'll go back into our Bend Arc, turn off X, go into Bend Arc here, and now we can do, it'll give us a slight curvature that we can match this star now. Okay, so we'll hit D on that one, we'll hit D on that one, and we'll call that a day. So that was another weird, that was fun, that was fun. Let me see, a couple different techniques. These are actually kind of fun. I like doing them. Let's do a, now this one we've already kind of done. Okay, let's go into production mode here. So let's go ahead and load back up. Oops, we already got it loaded. Let's go back to this one here. So what I'm going to do is if I want to clone this entire, if I want to clone just this off here, I can go to clone and it'll clone off this question mark. But what I can also do is I can do copy tool, and then we can go in here and we can paste tool, and that'll go ahead and paste this entire tool, and now I can start fresh. So if I want to, I can go into this question mark and we can hit delete, and now we've got just this box with the corners on it. So if we want a box with corners on it, and we want these corners to be on all sides, let's go ahead and take this one here. Let's do a quick mirror and weld across X and Z, and turn off LSIM. So if we have LSIM turned on and we do mirror and weld across X and Z, it's going to mirror it across that local axis. Let's go out of that and mirror and weld across this world axis here. So now we've got it on both sides here, and I can also duplicate this, and let's go ahead and rotate this. I'm going to hold down Alt, hit X to go out of X symmetry, go to local mesh center, snap it here, hold down Shift, and now we can go to all sides here. So and then we can just merge these down. So now these are subtractive. We've got our box here. We turn on render, and now we've got that on all sides. If this is going to shoot bullets out of it, let's see. We want to go Z forward where the bullet shooter is. Now instead of trying to slice a perfect, I mean I can put a circle in there. So if we go here, go out of live Boolean mode. Oh boy, we're going to need some more resolution. So if I do Shift D, we'd have to cut this thing up with a lot of resolution. Then we can go in here with Control Shift, and you could slice a circle out of this thing. Of course, there's no resolution, it's going to do a bad cut like that. But for example, just for demonstration purposes, let's go ahead and duplicate this off. Go into solo mode here. If we want to keep these edges here, we can go in here and we can hit apply on this dynamic, and that'll give us more subdivisions here. And now if we want to, let's do, let's go ahead and delete lower. It might even be better if we want to match. Okay, so if you want nice, okay, let's just do this. Okay, there's a lot of different ways to do this. It's probably what, if I want to cut a circle, I want nice even geometry. So let's see if ZModeler, our ZRemesh, will keep us out of this thing here. So let's say keep groups, turn smooth groups down to 0, and the rest of it should be fine. There we go, nice even geometry here. So now when I go in here to slice circle, it'll go ahead and slice a nice circle. Now you can also go in here to slice circle, under stroke, do square center, and now you can just go from the center and make a perfect circle like this. If you don't want it to go to the other side, what you'll have to do is hold down Control Shift and then tap Control. That'll go into your visibility. Hold down Alt, get rid of that backside, and now you can go slice circle and then bring it back and you're fine. Masking, I don't think will do the trick, but visibility should. So then you could, but then you've got all this geometry and all that stuff. So what I would prefer to do is we're Z forward here. Oh, that's weird. My monitor's doing something weird. Okay, so I've got this here. Let's go ahead and do insert a cylinder. Oh, you know what else we can do? So I grab this primitive here, and I hit Control, and then I hit W, and then we go ahead and set this back. Let's turn off X symmetry. There we go. And then I hold down Alt and move this forward, although is this really going to work? Sometimes it doesn't. And we go over here to Cylinder 3D. Oh, okay, it did. And I'm going to turn off Dynamic. So now what I can do is I can choose if I want like an inner radius or an outer radius, which in this case I actually do. So let's go ahead and give ourselves an inner radius here. And let's say I like this cylinder. Let me h divide 16, perfect. So now what I'm going to do is do a split unmasked points. We'll shoot that down here, and then I can just quickly say whatever, go back to Gizmo 3D. We'll scale this up. So something like this. Now if we turn on Q grid for this one, it's not going to work great. So we're going to have to go into a dynamic, and then we'll change our crease, and we'll turn off Q grid, and we'll just use smooth subdivision. So we're going to smooth subdivide this up maybe to 4, then our crease level to 3, and that'll give us something like that. Now another problem is, let's say we want to make this thicker or thinner while we're looking at it. So I'm going to go over here, and under your polygroup menus, there's not an auto groups, there's a group by normals. And now that these have an inside polygroup here, we can do Q mesh polygroup all, and then just hold down Shift. You can push this in along this radius here. We also need to punch a hole into this box. So let's go ahead and duplicate this off. And now that we've got this one, let's go into solo mode, hit Shift D, and I just want this inner ring. So I'm gonna hold down Control Shift and just tap these outside. Let's go back into select rectangle, invert that here, and we'll get rid of all these polygroups here. We're gonna go to Geometry, Modify Topology, Delete Hidden. And now what we're gonna do is go into, we did this before where we went into not deformation. Way down here, display properties flip. We just flip those normals. So now I can go to each side of here. We can go to close convex hole, and we just close these here. And if we want to again, we can do another group by normals. And now we have a front, back, side. If we hit D, that'll give us our dynamic subdivisions. Because we duplicated off this original one, we still have our same dynamic properties. So now we can make this one subtractive. So let's turn on our live Boolean here. And we can go ahead and push this back. And now we're getting a hole through the box here. Now there's probably, you're going to see that little, I call it Z fighting right here. That's when two faces are right on top of each other. That's probably going to cause a little bit of an issue when we make our union mesh. So what I'm going to do is, number one, I'm going to go into solo mode. And this is also, see how when we hit D, and basically what we're doing is we're subdividing up to 4, but we're only creasing up to 3 levels. If I want to tighten these corners up just a little bit, what I'm going to do is put in some control loops here. So we're going to go to Insert, Single Edge Loop. We'll put in a control loop here and here, let's say. So now when we hit D, it'll keep those a little more, not quite so average. It's not going to, these averages aren't going to pull all the way across the object. They're going to pull and stop right where that control loop is. So that gives it a little bit of a tighter bevel. So we got this, we got this. Let's go ahead and back this off just a little bit, or push it out just a little bit. And then if we turn on polyframe here, what I'm going to do, let me just push this all the way back in. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Something like that. So that'll actually be a lip in. I think that'll work. I might have to get new monitors. Dang it. Let me put on my list of things to do. That flickering is not going to work. With a vertical sync or something. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. Cool. If you want to see the side of the star and maintain the edges and points of the star pointy, you could mask the borders of the star, mask the front side to be curved, and invert the mask. Okay, hold on. Ryunin says, let's try it. Let's give it a shot. Let's walk through this. So, whoops. Okay. So if you want to curve one side of the star and maintain the edges and points of the star pointy, you could mask the borders of the star. Yeah, so if you wanted to, let's try that too. So we have this one. Oh, did I split that off? I thought we could go back to, oh, it's this one that has the, okay, so we're going to duplicate this eyeball off. And we're going to go to the star thing. We're going to go to solo mode, and I'm just going to go all the way back here. So we can go back to our star here. So, you can mask the border. So you can go in here when you go into the mask properties. Actually, you could also probably just do, let's do polish. Let's just do a polish here. Yeah, polish helps. So you could fatten the star up, and you could also do polish. But if you go down here to masking, you can do mask by features border, and that'll do any polygroup border or any open border. So if you have an open border here and you do mask by features, it'll mask your border out. In this case, we might need a little more geo. Mask by features border, we might not be able to have. Delete lower. Okay, so now we can mask by polygroup border. Groups, duh. Okay, so it's not going to be a polygroup border. It's going to be an open border that does border, or you can do groups, and that'll mask your group border out. And then with those masked, you can do, let's try, ooh, that's kind of a cool look. I like that. Or you can mask out the tips, like we were saying here in the chat. So we can mask out these tips to keep them pointy. Now, if you just do this, it's probably going to keep them a little too masked. So what I do is hold down Control and tap and really just kind of fade those edges out. You could also do blur mask over here. If you want to tighten them up, hold down Control Alt and tighten them up. So for example, we have blur and then we have tighten. Not a whole lot of resolution here, but we can tighten these masks up and then blur them out. But anyway, let's see if we can go here, 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 and then blur them out and then inflate. That'll keep them a little bit pointy. And then we can go into polish here. Just tap that once, just a little bit. And I mean, I would inflate the middle. I wonder if there would be a body that could wrap deform from the center and inflate it out along a, There's an interesting way I could do this in Maya, but not one I could translate to ZBrush very well. What mesh should you use to start the box object? That was just, for example, I've got this one here. Just go down here to initialize Q cube. In fact, drop this resolution down to 1, hit Q cube, and then I like to work at ZBrush's native scale. In fact, I wish it just started at ZBrush's native scale. Deformation, unify. There we go. And then hit X. And now for this one, what you want to do is go into your dynamic properties for your geometry, where it says dynamic. If you turn off smooth and go to Q grid, and then change your coverage, that'll kind of build in that look. So that's basically the cube we started with. So we can go ahead and let's just delete that. All right. We got that one, we got that one. Okay, so we got this one going, and now this one has a skull pattern on the side of it. So let's go ahead and do the polyplane for that one. So what I'm going to do is go to append, and we're going to grab another polyplane, and we're going to take this polyplane, we're going to turn off live boolean, and we're just going to scoot this out front, and we'll scale it up a little bit. Now, when you append a primitive, you don't have to go to make polymesh 3D, at least you shouldn't. Then we hit Control D, we'll subdivide this up. And we're going to need a better reference. What are those things called? Bullet boxes. There we go. Perfect. He, he, he. All right. So I'm going to say save image as. I'm just going to throw this on my desktop so I can find it faster. And then we're going to go to texture, import, desktop, and we're going to grab this. So now, if we select this, and we scale this down, you're going to see where it comes, it's transparent. That's because we, anything that's pure black that's brought in here is going to act as transparency. So I'm going to go over here to intensity, tap that once, and let's back that intensity off here. There we go. So now if I hit, let's also drop this opacity down, and we can also scale this up if we want to. So I can make this widget go down here, and then we can just scale it up. Now, in order to make sure this is X symmetry, we can go into RGB, turn off Z add, and let's turn off polyframe here. And in order to paint, let's go ahead and delete lower. And RGB, not with our Z modeler brush. There we go, standard brush. Z add off, X turned on. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. And in fact, this is actually going to save us a little bit of time too. So let's do Shift Z. So we've got these, we got black, we've got white. Let's go ahead and hit C to sample this dark gray color, and then we'll just keep using RGB, and I'm going to turn off L. So now what we can do is we've got this polyplane here. Let's go to masking, and let's do mask by color, mask by intensity. And now, if we turn off our polypaint here, and we turn our color back up to white, you're going to see we have a good mask. If we want to adjust this mask, see how it's kind of, if I pull this out now, it's going to have a little ring around it. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. So let's go back to our masking menu, mask adjust, turn off blur, go to the mask adjust profile, and we'll do a focal shift. -51 maybe. There we go. And that'll kind of tighten our mask up. So let's control tap to invert that, hit control W, and now we've got this shape here. So now we can go ahead and do delete hidden. And that will be, this will be perfect too, because it looks like it's kind of embedded in the side, so it's not just a decal. So now that we've got this, if we want to get these edges nice and smooth, let's go into our deformation menu. We'll do polish by features, and we'll just polish the heck out of those edges. And now we can go into, we can just do an extraction at this point. It's kind of, it could be kind of a heavy, well, not really, it's only 50,000. ZBrush can handle it, but it is kind of a heavy extraction here. So if we go into, what am I looking for here? Extract. Subtool, geez, my brain's already going. Let's see, extract here. And extract double, let's take our smooth should be fine. We're already pretty smooth. But if you hit extract here, that's the extraction we're going to get. And if you want to clean these borders up, you can do that as well. Let's go ahead and do it. So I'm going to say, yeah, it looks good. Accept that. And now we have that selected. That's our extraction. And we didn't lose our original mesh. We can always go back to that. So now with this extraction, what we can do is we can go over here to polish by features. And now that we have two different polygroups here, see how it's kind of wobbly? Just go in here to polish by features and tap that, and that'll smooth your wobbles out. There you go. And now even at this point, you could zero mesh this if you want to. So this, what you would want to do is to keep groups, smooth groups down to 0. I guess we can do half zero mesh. Let's do a quick save here. Half, ZBrush, adapt to size. Let's turn our adaptive size down a little bit. So adaptive size down to 0 is going to keep everything really quads based, but since there's so many complex cuts and shapes in here, I'm going to have it up a little bit so it can maintain our edge integrity a bit. There we go. So then we can go half, zero mesh half, and just keep hitting that until it gets down to a polygon size that you like. And if you want to simplify this even more manually, you could just go through here with your Z modeler brush, insert single edge loop, hold down Alt, and you could just get rid of these ones. Sometimes going into your other menu, you know what, let's go ahead and get rid of these. There's a geometry edge loop delete you can sometimes use if it doesn't affect the overall shape. It'll delete based on an angle threshold, but sometimes it doesn't work. So anyway, we've got that here. So now what we can do is we can do a crease polygroup. That's under your geometry crease menu. And then we can hit dynamic, and we'll change this crease level down to like 1 and smooth subbev up to 2. So now with our dynamic on, we're getting a nice bevel around that edge here. So that's one way you can make this shape. There's another way. If you go back to this original one, you could just zero mesh this one here and see how it'll turn out instead of doing extractions and then zero meshing. And if you don't like this thickness or anything, you can go in here to your Z modeler brush, or you want to change it, and you can just go to Q Mesh Polygroup All, and you can just pull this out and hold down Shift to pull along the surface normal, or you can even make it thicker this way. Hold down Shift, or you can put in an ebb border, so you can pull out a border here, and now you've got like a little framed mesh. You're going to need to be careful around these corners here because Q Mesh is going to want to pull these things in, so careful of that. You could do, instead of a Q Mesh, what you could do is an extrude polygroup all. Here and then here. but there's still some weird stuff going on down there in these little corners here. Anyways, but we don't need to do that. So we're going to take this one here, and we're going to, I guess we don't need our original one here. Like I was saying before, you could ZRemesh this and then extrude or extract or ZModeler, but let's delete that. So now what we can do is we can go, let's hold down Shift and gizmo this thing, and then pull this back here, and we'll kind of embed it a little bit. And the cool thing is, this looks like even in the reference, it's kind of subtractive. So we go into Live Boolean here, we can just kind of pull that shape in there. And the other cool thing is that's going to give us our own polygroup when we make our union mesh, so we can fill that with a different material if we'd like. Now, if we want this on both sides, what we need to do is, this is Z forward. Oh man, that flickering is bad. This is Z forward, so I want to mirror across the x-axis, mirror and weld across the x-axis, LSIM turned off. There we go. And now it's on two sides. And then we need to put D back on this one. And this looks a little big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on LSIM, and we're going to go to the center, and we're going to say this symmetry is across the X. Go to mesh center, but not on this object. We want to go back down here. There we go. And now we can scale this down. Kind of fit it. Thereabouts. Cool. All right, so we'll go ahead. So we started with the cube that we had previously, and then we turned it into one of these things. So we can go ahead and save this as, and I have no idea what the names of these things are, so I'm going to just call it what it looks like. All right. Cool. Now, in order to have a bullet box, we need a bullet to go inside of it. So we can borrow some of these things too. So we know the exact size that the bullet's going to be when it comes out, which is going to be the inner size of this radius. That's what we can start with. So we can select this one, and since we've already saved this, I think we're fine. If we want to keep it safe and be like, okay, let's keep it up here in our tool menu, but we want to start a new object. I mean, we could put a new object in here, but I kind of want to work separately. Although it is kind of nice to have that. Okay, you know what? There's one thing we could do is we could just copy the tool and paste it. But what I'm going to do is duplicate this ring here, because we're going to use this inner ring to dictate the width of our bullet dude. So we're going to duplicate this, shoot it down to the bottom here, and go into polyframe mode. Let's turn off Live Boolean. We don't need that anymore, or we don't need it at the moment. Do Shift D, and then if we go into solo mode here, you're going to see this inner ring is the maximum size it can be to go in this hole, right? So I'm going to hold that Control Shift again, Control Shift drag, and we're going to get rid of all of these rings here again, and then Geometry Modify Topology Delete Hidden. Now for this one, I mean, I can go ahead and just do a close convex hole, and we can close this one. It's just kind of hard to see what it's doing because it's going through the other side here. So Display Properties Flip again. It's at the very bottom of your tool menu here, and just for fun, we'll do a quick group by normals. So now we have the width of that bullet here. So we can pull this out, and if we want to, if we tap Alt, or hold down Alt and tap on the back, we can just start scaling out from this side here and get this dimension. And if you wanted to even go so far as to like make sure that he fits in there, just go into transparency mode, and you could like make sure that he fits perfectly in here. But let's go ahead and match some reference here. So texture, import, and I think he's on, yeah, this one. Select that one here, plus. Okay, so I gotta leave in 30 minutes too, and I apologize for that. So if I want to flip this one horizontally, we can just flip it H. So he's coming out this way, and then we can just scale him up so that he's about the size. So now we can even determine the overall width of the object because we have how round he is. So if we know he's perfectly round in the Z direction, this is how big the mesh is going to end up having to be. So that'll work. So now he's kind of in perspective here. If you want to, you can turn on perspective. I was going to kind of eyeball it and say, okay, he's about yay big here. Now let's go ahead and make this curved part here. So I'm going to go here, and we're going to go to delete polygroup I can do delete polygroup all. Let's get rid of all these. And now when we do our close convex hull, we have spline turned on, we have interactive curvature. So when I close this, I can just pull out, and then we can just round this thing off. Like this. Now if I want to modify this end part, all I can do is hold down Control, then Alt, hit W, and then we can just start from here. So I'm going to hold down Alt and just Shift, and then we just pull that back. There we go. And then we can go in here, we can do Insert Single Edge Loop right along this here. And let's also do a quick Bevel Edge Loop Complete. That'll pull this in, and then we'll do a Q-Mesh Polygroup All. We'll just pull these in here. Nice. Now, in order to get this curve here, what I can do is I could take this edge and we can just slide it along that edge loop here. Let's pull this in just a bit. Like so. Now to get this arm in here, we can also do some more Boolean modeling, but let's go ahead and smooth this guy out. So let's see, he maintains that. This we might have to build in edge loops, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to hit Shift Z to get rid of that. Now if we hit just D for dynamic, it's going to average all of our vertices here. So what I want to do is go in here and crease. Using our crease tolerance, we're going to just keep dropping that down until it grabs all those creases. You can just manually as well just hover over an edge, and you can do like crease, edge loop complete, hold down Alt, and you can uncrease anything. Or you can go through here and you can crease it. Whoops. There we go. If you're having trouble seeing it, just hit Shift D and turn that off. So now I got our creases built in. And this seems to look fine. If you did need to, what you could do, if you needed to sharpen this transition up, but you didn't want to put a crease in here, because if you do crease edge loop complete and then hit D, it's going to crease along here. We also have crease subdivision load set to 4 or set to 3. So if this is all the way creased, Shift D and D, you're going to see it's going to give you a really harsh ring around here. Doing a crease subdivision level of 3 mixed with a smooth subdiv of 4 kind of mitigates that in a pretty decent way. But if you wanted to control that even more, you could do maybe Shift D, and then you could just, let's see, crease, hold down Alt, we can uncrease this, and then you could just put in control loops. So insert single edge loop. If you wanted to just tighten this transition up a little bit manually, just put in some control loops there, and that'll allow you to do that. But in this case, I think it works fine the way it is. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so Shift Z, go back here. Now I seem to remember, I don't remember this guy having arms. I mean, we can go ahead and make arms on him if we want to. Yeah, this is the one I remember. Do I like this one better? So I remember just the one with the teeth, not the one with the arm necessarily. But we got one with the arm, so I guess we'll just go ahead and make that. So we need the eyeball 2. This we can probably just draw on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this off, and we're going to let ZBrush do some of the heavy lifting for us, I think. So we've got this one duplicated off. I'm going to go ahead and apply those dynamic subdivisions so we have real geometry to kind of paint on. I'm going to go into solo mode here, and I'm going to hit Control D one more time. And with standard brush RGB turned on, we can just paint them up. And then we can do Shift Z. Now I can use this as our placement guide, right? Do we have X turned on? We don't have X turned on, but we can just mirror and weld this across the X if we delete lower. There we go. And we also don't want X and Y turned on, so just X symmetry. So now we can use this as a guide to just draw geometry on. So we can go to like BTO, that's our topology brush, and we can just match this. I'm going to pull this around here, and then we can go through here. And then we can go maybe here. And then maybe one more. That'll work. Now if you just tap, that's going to give us our geo. So let's go ahead and do split mass points. And if we just want to work on the bullet with the eyeballs, hold down Shift, touch the eyeball, and then tap the nameplate to turn the eyeball back on, and then tap the eyeball for the bullet here. So now we just have these two. I can turn off the poly paint for all of these, holding down Shift and just turn that off. And now for this one here, we can hit D, and that'll give us our dynamic subdivisions. And if we want to, we can also just run our crease tolerance here to get those corners more creased, and we also have smooth subdivision 4, crease level of 3, so it is kind of backing off a little bit. If we want to smooth these transitions out, just hit W, and you can just go through and modify this. If you need more resolution, if that's not doing it for you, what I can do is just go in here to geometry, just hit divide once, and then delete lower. You don't have to delete lower, but I like just having my lowest subdivision. You can also just hit construct. If you hit delete lower and you want to construct, just hit reconstruct. It'll reconstruct it back using its sub D algorithm. And now when I hit D, this one I'm probably going to back off. So crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3. You don't need to smooth it that much because we've already dynamically subdivided it once. And now we hit Alt. I'll do into live Boolean mode, and we'll make this one subtractive. And we'll make this a new, oh, whoops, wrong way. New start group, subtractive. There we go. So now you can see this is kind of pushing in a little bit. And if we want this to bevel in, let's go back into solo mode here. Let's hit, I guess we could scale this in ZModeler maybe. Let's see, Q mesh. Let's do scale, local symmetry, polygroup all, local symmetry. Yeah, we can just kind of scale this in. So if we go out of solo mode here, now we're kind of getting that kind of pushed in kind of look here. And you can still use this as a way to kind of go through here and smooth that out. So that's the look he had. And we can also make this and then dynamesh this and then sculpt this if you wanted to get fancy. Let me zoom in here. Also, let me flip this in my reference here. If you wanted to, you know, scoop this out and then make this, it does look like I would want to cut that geometry in and not use a Boolean, but I think we're going to stick with what we got. So let's go ahead and go in here. Just for now, we can fix that later. So cylinder 12, and let's go back to our guy here. So we know the cylinder goes here. And in fact, we didn't even need to do a cylinder. We could have done a torus. But since we got a cylinder, that's fine. And now this is going to be a two-part Boolean where one's going to cut a piece out and then one's going to be sitting in there. So for this one, let's just go ahead and do crease, dynamic, and then we'll make this one subtractive as well. So I'm going to do split unmasked points here, and we'll make that subtractive. So that's going to that's going to push in. Oops. And we can scale this out a bit too. So that'll be our push-in point. And then the one that sits inside of there is going to be a duplicate of that. And this one's going to be additive here. So we can do Shift-D. And there's a couple different ways we can do this. One way would be to go in here. We can do Inset, Flat Island, Region. And then we can just pull this in here. And then just tap this back one, and then we can do Q mesh polygroup all and just pull that through. And if you want to change the width of that to match your reference, we turn off the live Boolean mode and we turn off the eyeball for that. You can see how this thing needs to sit in there. Oh, also this thing is way too big. So really, let's see. We've got the hole in there. I guess we can scale both of these at the same time. So let's hit W, turn on multiple. Here, let's hit Control Shift. Maybe not. Shift D. D, and let's turn this guy back on, sorry. I guess the hole's okay. It's just that this one's too big. So what we're going to do is before we poke a hole through it, we're going to make sure it's the right size. So easy way to do that. One of the easy ways to do that is just go to Group by Normals And then we're going to do a quick turn off LSIM, do a quick mirror and weld across the x-axis so we have them both on the same side. And now we can just Q mesh polygroup all along the surface normal and just hold down shift. Let's turn off the eyeball for this one so we can see where this needs to end up. So somewhere about here. And then the inside of this will be, let's do inset flat island again. And we'll just, it doesn't really matter how thick this is because we can change it. We'll just do both sides here and then Q mesh polygroup all, pull that through. And now we can take this polygroup here with Q mesh polygroup all and just hold down shift and just match that. Now to get that rounded kind of look on the inside here, I'll also cover different ways we can do that. I'm probably just going to stick with insert, multiple edge loops, interactive elevation, and then I can just pull out and just kind of round this off a little bit. Let's go ahead and just do a quick uncrease all and then hit D. There we go. And then this is subtractive, punch this in. And now for this mesh here, we can kind of dial these in and out too. So we can go through here with Q mesh polygroup all. And again, we'll just do a quick, nope, group by normals, mirror and weld. And then shrink that in just a little bit. Okay, so it kind of pokes a hole in the side. And then this thing you can also play with. Let's see, Q mesh polygroup all. Oh, did I get rid of all those? Oh, you know what? It's adding extra loops here. Well, let's just do this then. I want to inflate it along its surface normals here, so we can just go into deformation inflate. That'll work. It looks like I accidentally scaled that in once. Okay, so we've got that going, got the eyeballs in. Now we just need to make a fist with arms, which we can use with ZBrush. It should be easy. Yeah, I think I just got rid of that. Yeah, I just noticed thanks for bringing it up, the midline there. Do you usually model in ZBrush? Yes, all the time. It's just easy to use sculpting and box modeling and dynamic booleans in one package. I mean, I can hard surface model in any package, but while I'm in ZBrush, I have a few more tricks available to me, so it makes it a little bit easier to kind of do stuff. Like what I'm about to do, which is put these arms in here. So this will be another, this is where we're going to use ZRemesher to kind of, and it's Dynamesh to do the heavy lifting for me. So organic stuff like this, I don't need to necessarily box model. So what we can do is, we can grab the inside of this perfect cylinder, kind of when we did the bullet. Let me turn off here. So when we did the bullet going into the house here, is that subtracting out correctly? What's not happening here? Oh, we got a new start group. No, it should be right. Oh, I need to make this. There we go. And then, so this subtracts out, this adds, and then this subtracts out. And this is my start group. Oh, wait. Do I have two of these for some reason? Weird. I guess I must duplicate it off. Anyway, this is where we're at. Now, we could, like, for the inside of the arm, take the inside, just like we did the inside of this cylinder, and make it perfect. Or, there's no, I don't really need to make it perfect, so I can just go to grab a cylinder here, and we can just eyeball it. No point in doing anything crazy if it's just going to be something that vaguely fits, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do split unmesh points here, and then we'll turn off our render here. And we'll take this one, we'll shoot it down to the bottom, and this will be a new start group here. So I'm going to go through and do a crease. Let's do a crease here, and then we'll do Shift D because we don't need that. So this is going to be the start of our arm. So really quickly, we can just make the arm, kind of looks like it comes out, and it also looks like it rotates down. So if I go here and kind of rotate this down a little bit, and also let's just work on this. We'll take the body here. So that's kind of what we have. And then it's going to curve towards the front, so I'm going to hold that control and then just rotate this forward here. It's kind of got these pulled in. And let's do Shift Z. And we didn't save our view, but that's okay because we can just line it up really quickly. And now we can just go through here And let's make these all, we have X turned on. It's doing something weird. Let's do a quick mirror and weld across the X. That should fix it. There we go. So we can drop this down, rotate it back, push this back. Okay, so there's that. And for the hand, let's just do a sphere. Like so. And this sphere probably doesn't need to be perfectly round, so we can kind of, let's turn on LSIM, and then we will squash it a little bit this way. And also we'll turn it in just a little bit, so it kind of looks like he's making a little turned in fist here. And we'll scale it down just a little bit. And then for the fingers, we can just duplicate off. Maybe it needs to be turned up. Something like that. Now for the fingers, we can duplicate this off, or we can just quickly go in here with a new sphere. And we can say, I want a little knuckle here. And another little knuckle here, and another little knuckle here, and maybe a thumb up here. Now this thumb, we're going to need to stretch out a little bit. So I can go in here with my scale and rotate, or I can just use my move brush, whatever you want to do. So, and we'll just rotate this back a little bit as well. All right, so that's his basic shape here. We do need to fill this out. And I said I wasn't going to Z model to this, and I'm really not. I'm going to let ZRemesher remesh this for me. But since we're talking about it, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this. So I'm going to do a quick, again, group by normals. And I'm going to turn off LSIM, do a quick mirror and weld to get the same hand on both sides. And I'm going to take this one, and we're going to QMesh polygroup all. I'm going to hold down Shift and move this back. And then I'm going to hold down Shift and move this back. So now what I can do is I can go to Delete polygroup all. I can delete this one and delete this one. Then I can hover this edge, and we can do bridge 2 holes, and then we can just bridge this one to this one. There we go, something like that. Pretty good. It's true, they do keep adding features, so it is tough to leave that ZBrush. Once you get comfortable in ZBrush, it's really difficult to be like, well, let me just hop over here and do this real quick. I just prefer to stay in ZBrush. Yes, this stream is being archived, so if you guys want links to that. So this is the Pavlovich workshop. This goes to the ZBrush archives. If you go to my YouTube channel, playlists, I do my live stream on Thursdays, so you can go to my live stream episodes here, and there's a bunch of other stuff on my YouTube channel as well. So you can do that. So, we got all this stuff here. Let's see how I'm doing on time. Okay, I got about 15 minutes left. So if we want to, we can hit D for dynamic subdivisions here. Let's go ahead and do an uncrease all. There we go. So that's basically what we're looking at here. If you want to go ahead and make modifications, you can just isolate little pieces of him. And you don't even need to do that. You could just do a move topological and change that. Let's turn off the floor here. Make whatever modifications you want. And even for these little knuckles here, you could try going, let's say let's grab this one, this one, this one, mask that and invert it, and now we can kind of pull these forward a little bit so it looks like he's got more fingers and not just little nubs, and we'll give him some knuckles too. Something like that. So if this is what we're happy with and we want to go ahead and ZRemesh this thing, let's go ahead and there's a couple things we can do to ensure that the ZRemesher is giving us the results that we want. The knuckles are fine, so let's go ahead and polygroup this thing. So what I'm going to do first is go out of dynamic mode, and we're going to hold down Control Shift, isolate this. If we do Control Shift and just grab a little piece of one of the objects, you can do Control Shift A. It's visibility grow all. Hit Control W. That'll make it all one polygroup here. So if I want a crease at the arm here, when I dynamesh this thing and then ZRemesh it, I'm going to have these two separate polygroups. The knuckles can all be part of one object here. So I'm going to grab this one here, and this, Make that all one polygroup here. And then if I want to keep this a controlled ring, what I need to do is I can hover over this and we can just do polygroup flat island, and then you can just polygroup that. So now these are our polygroup control loops that we're going to use when we ZRemesh this thing. Now in order to make this all one object, I'm going to hit D again, and let's go ahead and do crease polygroup. There we go. So that'll keep that nice and crispy. So this is what the look that we're going for here. So if I'm fine with this, what I can do is go ahead and hit apply to apply these dynamic subdivisions. I want to apply those into real subdivisions before I go into Dynamesh, because if I don't, for example, if I'm like, oh, it looks great, and then I go in here to my Dynamesh, you're going to see how it builds in the faceting. That's because this dynamic preview is just a preview. So I need to go in here and apply it to give it real subdivisions. So now when I Dynamesh this, it'll go ahead and Dynamesh it together. Now I need more resolution, so I can undo that. I'm going to crank this resolution up. I'm also going to turn off blur, and if I go into polyframe here, when we Dynamesh this thing together, would you like to free subdivision levels? No. There we go. So now I've got all one object, and if I want to, even at this point, if I want to help ZRemesh out and be like, you know what, ZRemesh, before you go in here, I'm just going to go ahead and soften these transitions out. I don't need those super harsh when you remesh this thing. In fact, even on the knuckles here, you can go through and really transition those in a little bit nicer, just with basic sculpting brushes. You can go here with the inflate brush. It's kind of inflate along the back of the hand here. So any sculpting you need to do, feel free to do it here. Now on the wrist there, I am going to keep that pretty crispy. And we do have the built-in subdivisions here and here. If you want to, also, you can go into your polish by features, and as you're polishing this up, it'll go ahead and put a ring and polish those polygroups here around each side. And since this is such a soft cartoony object, I think that'll work fine. And now we can ZRemesh this. So if we want to get simpler geometry, I mean, you can stop here if you want to, but I prefer to work with lower res geometry. So I'm going to go in here to ZRemesher, adapt to size down-ish, and then we'll do target polygon count of 5 is fine. Keep groups, smooth groups down. Smooth groups we can probably keep up, but that basically does is add a smooth to the polygroups that you have. So I'll turn it down for now, see how it works. And we have X turned on, so we're going to get X symmetry, and that'll go ahead and give us simplified geometry. And this is better, or we're doing this instead of going in and manually retopologizing this thing, which would take me a while. Cool. Why you can't turn off all the eyeballs besides one, only clicking on the chosen subtools eyeball and ZBrush, you have to hold down Shift. So when you go into your, in here, and let's say we go out of solo mode here, it's like, okay, if you hold down Shift and turn everything back on, and I just want to work on the bullet, arm, and the body, if I hold down Shift and turn off the arm, then it'll show the arm, and then I can show the body start group. So instead of just, well, I'm not sure how we did it before, but yeah, if you hold down Shift, it'll do the whole eyeball thing. Yeah, Temporary's got it right. Okay, so we got this, and this might still be a little bit too high, so I'm going to go in here. Instead of doing a target polygon count, I'm just going to do half and just hit ZRemesh. And it's a little bit too low. Okay, I think this will be fine. If you want to cap this a little bit more like a cylinder, you can isolate that and then just do a delete hidden, and then with ZModeler you can go in here and do a close convex hole if you're so inclined. And now even here you can do like a crease polygroup if you wanted to crease between these. But in this case, I'm just going to crease this polygroup here. So I'm going to hover over this edge, and we'll do crease edge loop complete. And now when I hit D, that's our dynamic preview. And now I've got little arms on them. So let's go back into our dynamic render here. All right, that's the look we're getting. And I think the only thing we're missing is a little sphere on here. So what's the best way to do that? Let's actually grab this eyeball here and we'll... Okay, so I'm going to insert another cylinder. Just one more thing. Say cylinder 12 here. And let's go out of our render. I'm going to go ahead and do a split unmask points. I'm going to drop this to the bottom here. Actually, we're going to move that up into the start group of the bullet. And then we're going to make this not subtractive, we're going to make it additive. No, that's subtractive. Where is this one at? Oh, I haven't split it yet. Oh, no, I did split it. Okay, I'm just dumb. Okay, so we're going to make this one additive. I'm going to do a quick crease here, and we'll just move this into place. So if I go back into my live boolean here, we can just move this. Let's hold down Alt. Push this in, and we'll just move this around based on our camera. And this one needs to go below the cutout, so it makes it the eyeball here. And we'll just kind of eyeball this placement. Something like that. Yep, that'll work. All right, so we got our little bullet dude. And like I said before, we'll go ahead and render these next time. Since it's 7:27, I've got to head out. Sorry about that. Normally I go for a little bit longer here. Now this bullet body here, it's a bullet body. I don't know what the difference between these are. So I'm just going to delete that one. I must have duplicated that off. And then if we hold down Shift with this one selected, that'll turn everything back on. So that's what we got. We got this little housing here. So let's see, let's turn on perspective so it looks a little bit better. So we can do, and if you want to, you could also do a BPR. I think you can do a BPR render with your Boolean here. And this is not going to go to, let's see, render, external render. Just want to make sure it doesn't go to KeyShop. So with this one here, we can hit BPR. And it should go ahead and add in our shadows and all that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So we've got this one. So we modeled this little bullet guy coming out of his little bullet house here. And then we've got this little question mark box. And this is the question mark box on both sides here. Like so. And we've also got our little star guy. This one I'm going to hit D for dynamic subdivisions here. And then this one here, let's go ahead and... Okay. And then we get a BPR. Now this one doesn't have any Boolean stuff on it. It's just two separate objects, so that'll work as well. So anyways, ZBrush Summit XM showed their Magneto, which is fully sculpted all the details in a T-pose. Then they posed it, which begs the question how they do it without losing all those details. Use Transpose Master, probably. I've got more info on that. Again, if you go to my YouTube channel, playlists, there's a couple different places in here, probably live stream highlights. And you scroll down to the very bottom, we do, or in fact, just go to my YouTube channel here, and I wonder if you can just type in, I know we get into it in Intro to ZBrush Part 2 or 3. Transpose Master is somewhere in here. Or maybe, you know what, we can do Transpose Master next time. It's pretty simple. In fact, we can just do a really quick demo before we head out. So if you go in here, turn off live boolean, go to edit mode, and we go into our comma key here, tool, and you've got Demo Soldier, and Demo Soldier has a bunch of different subtools on here, and he also has a bunch of different subdivisions, so there's detail on there. All you need to do with all these different options here, with our subtools here, I know. Go over here to Z plugin, Transpose Master, hit T-pose mesh. That's going to put him all into one mesh here, so we can turn on X symmetry if we want to, and we can go ahead and just start masking and rotating and see how everything's following with. We want to turn his head. Let's go into Unmesh Mesh Center, and we'll turn off X symmetry here. And we can turn his head and maybe tilt it down. So all the details are going to stick with it, and then when you're done posing this guy out, you just go to Transfer Transpose Mesh to Subtools, and that'll take them all back to his subtools here. And there you go. So now he's all posed out. You've got your details still, and you can continue sculpting. So that'll be it. Thanks for showing up, everybody. And I'll see you guys. I think Thursday I'm streaming on my channel. Yeah, Thursday I'm streaming. If you want to see, so if you go to ZBrush Live, you'll see everybody's schedule. If you go to twitchtv.pavmike, I think I got my schedule on there. But anyway, that's where I'll be Thursday. So cool. Take it easy, guys.